Hey everyone, welcome back to the React.js course. So in this video, we'll be implementing a mini project. So if you find this interesting, let's get started right away. So as a mini project, we are going to implement a to-do list in React. So first, let's understand what is a to-do list. Okay, so to-do list is essentially the list of items that need to be done in the future. So for that, we'll be making a list that is essentially need to be implemented. Okay. So firstly, let's understand what does a to-do list consist of. So firstly, in React, it's going to consist of an input container where we write all the to-dos. And towards the right or left, we have a button where we can press on it and then add that particular to-do to the to-do list. That is whatever we typed inside our input container. And at the last, we'll be showing all the to-dos that we essentially typed in the input container. Okay. So it's going to be a lot of fun as a mini project. So let's get started. So firstly, inside my app.js, okay, let us initialize a def tag and let's give it a class name and let's say container. So let's provide some basic styles to our app and container. Okay, so let's go to the app.css, target the app, and let's say display flex, and then align items of center as well as specify content of center. Okay, so save the file once and then come back to the app.js. Let's copy the container. Let's target that value. Okay, so for this, let's give a padding of 30 pixels. Okay, a height of 300 pixels. Let's also give a width property of 330 pixels. Next, we want the background color so that we can see something on the screen. So background color of, let's say, the light one, a light blue. Next, let's give some border radius of 10 pixels. Okay, let's align item center and also justify content center. Okay, so this is the basic styling for our app and the container that is present within the app. So save the file once. Let's go back. You should see the container. So before that, let's initialize a h2 or h3 tag, which gives the name of our application, that is to-do list, in block capital letter. So save the file and come back to the application. Okay, so yeah, refresh once. Yeah, so this is essentially our application. That is a starting point. Over from here, we are going to start building the to-do list. Okay, so you can see the h3 tag coming up. So we are going to give inline styling over here itself. So let's say style, and over here let's give a text align of center. Okay, so let's give that a try. Yeah, so you can see the text coming up right at the center. So let's give some spacing towards the top to the container. It's almost touching the page. So over here, let's say margin top of 100 pixels. So if we're not focusing that much on the styles, okay, or we are only focusing on the implementation part. That is how exactly it's done. So now, as I told, our to-do list is going to have the input field container, okay, where we can write all our input to-dos. So over here, let's initialize a div tag. So the first thing inside this div is our input. So let's write input, and the type is going to be a text. Okay, after that, it's going to take the placeholder, which is going to say write a to-do, and let's close the input field. Okay, so save the file once, come back to the web page. Yeah, so you can see that coming up. That is the input container. So next after this is we have a button which says add to do. Yeah, so you can see the button also coming up. So now what we do is essentially for our input, let us give some basic styling. So let's write style, and over here we're gonna say border of none, and let's give a bit of padding of 10. Okay, so save the file once. Yeah, so you can see the border has been gone. Okay, but also when we press on the input, the blue color outline comes up. So that can be done, that can be removed by writing outline of none. I think they should work, so let's give that a try. Yeah, so now if I press on the input field, the outline has gone. So now let's give some spacing towards the div, that is towards the top, since it's almost touching the to-do list h3 tag. So let's say margin top of 10 pixels. It is going to be just 10 because we are doing inline styling. Yeah, so you can see the space on the top. Let's give some space towards the left to the button. Okay, so let's come to the button over here. Let's write style and margin left of 10. All right. Okay, so now we have designed our input field as well as add to do. So the way this works is, as soon as I type something over here, okay, let's say go shopping, this is our initial to do, and press on the add to do button, this go shopping text should come over here into the to do list as the first item in the to do list, and the input field should become empty so that we can enter our second to do. Okay, so that's the way this works. So let's refresh once. Yeah, so let's see how we can implement this. So before that, let's handle something, that is we need to handle whatever the user types, we should store it in some state so that so that we can add that particular to do into the to do list, right? So for that, let's do over here, let's initialize our state. So let's say const input comma set input equals to use state. Let's import useState from React, and the initial value is going to be an empty string because at the initial stage there is no input written. Okay, so save the file. So now let's come back to our input field over here. Let's write the value which is going to be the input itself, that is this value inside of state, and this has something called as on change. Here essentially we are just storing whatever the user is typing inside of a state. So we're going to say set input to the e dot target dot value. Okay, so now let's log our input and check if everything is working fine. So console.log of input. So essentially over here we should be storing whatever the user is typing. So come back to the web page. Let's open up our console once. Okay, so initially it's empty, that is nothing is present. So let's write something. So let's write hello world. Yeah, so as you can see, so whatever the user is typing, it is getting stored inside of state, and we are console.logging the current state. Okay, so now let's go back and refresh once. Yeah, so by making use of this input, we are going to store that value inside of another state that we are just going to initialize. So now over here, just beneath the state, we are going to say const to do's comma set to do's equals to use state. So over here initially we're going to pass an empty array. So this list of array is going to contain the set of to do's, the list of to do's that we have typed from the start. Okay, that is in the input container. So that's why we are passing an empty array, because at the initial stage when we look at the app, there are 0 to do's. Okay, so save the file. So we're going to add an on click event on the button, that is whenever we type inside the input field and then press on add to do, we should do two things. So the first one is to add that particular to do into the to do list, and then the second thing is we have to clear the input. Okay, so for that we are going to say on click, it's going to take a function, and we are going to say add to do's of the input whatever we have typing. Okay, so that is this one. So this comes into the function as the parameter, which will define it over here. So let's say const add to do's equals to, okay, so we are going to say input, and we are just going to say set to do's of our input. Let's see if this works. Okay, so essentially what we are doing is when we click on the add to do button, we are passing that particular input we typed in the input container, and in our function we are taking it as the parameter, and then we are saying set to do's out to be the input. So save the file. Also let's log our input, let's log our to do's. So console.log our to do's. Okay, and the second thing we forgot to do is we are going to say set input to be an empty string again after we have implemented the first part, that is adding the to do. So let's give this a try. we'll see what is the exact output. Okay, so inspect once, come back over here, let's say go shopping is the first one, add to do. Let's go to the console. Yeah, add to do. Yeah, so as you can see, we are able to see the first to do being added over here. Okay, so let's add the second to do and see what happens. Okay, so let's say buy something. Okay, essentially there is some mistake. Okay, we are even logging the input. That's not required. Save the file and then refresh the app once more. And yeah, so as you can see, we have an empty array at the initial stage. So let's come back to the input and let's write the first to do. Let's go shopping. So let's press on add to do. Yeah, so essentially that is being added to the to-do list. Let's write this next one. Let's say buy something and add that. Okay, so that is getting replaced with the second to do, right? We have to include both the go shopping as well as the buy something, right? But over here what happens is the first to do that we added is getting lost. Okay, so for that we're going to implement it in a different way. So over here what we are going to do is set to dos. We're going to access whatever is there inside initially, that is the first input, and we're going to say return whatever is there inside the set to dos list, and then we are going to add the input that we just typed. Okay, so save the file and then yeah, now let's give it a try. So essentially this should work. All right, so okay, initially there is empty, so let's give it a try. Let's write buy something and then add that to do. Yeah, so as you can see, we are able to see that to do being added into the array. Okay, into the to dos array. So now if I write my second to do, what should essentially happen is we are accessing again this function. So the input is gone over here. So over here we are accessing the previous values that is present inside the to dos array. We are including that by spreading the value, and then we are concatenating it by adding the input value that we just typed. Okay, so yeah, let's give it a try. Let's say go shopping and then add to do. Yeah, so there you go, now it's working fine. We're able to see two elements inside a to do, right? That is the first one we added and the second one we have just typed it. Let's give another try. Go to play, then add it again. Yeah, so essentially all of the to dos are being added. So now we are going to display the to dos beneath over here by making use of the map function. We have already implemented that once. Yeah, so now over here let's initialize a div tag. So now let's access the to do. So since this is an array over here, we can map through it. So let's write to dos dot map for every to do inside the to do array. We are going to return a div tag. Okay, so inside the div tag we're going to set our h3 tag, and we're just going to display the to do itself, that is the value which is present inside the to dos array. So now we should see all the values coming up. There you go. So we have typed all the values and then we are getting it right over here by making use of the map function. So this is the way a to-do list is done. So now we are going to implement the second thing, that is a cancel button. Okay, so let's give some styling for that. So over here let's give the style property and give a margin of 10 so that it spaces out a bit. Yeah, so now it's looking good. So towards the right of all the to dos we are gonna display a X button, so that if I press on that to do, that means it should get cancelled. Okay, that means it has been completed. So over here just beneath the h3 let's initialize h4 tag and just let's write a capital X which says cancel. Okay, yeah, so now it's coming towards the bottom, so let's give some styling so that it comes towards the right. So over here let's say a flex direction of row. Okay, not flex direction, that's for React Native. Let's write display flex and then align item center. Okay. Okay, so now as you can see, we are able to see all the to-dos coming up in the correct straight line with the cancel button. So now towards the H4, let's give some styling towards the left because it's almost touching the H3 tag. So let's write margin left and of 6. Okay, let's give some more spacing. Let's say margin left of 10. Yeah, so essentially when I press on this, pretty much buy something should be gone. Okay, we should only have these two to do's, and if I press on the go shopping cancel button, that should be gone. So that's what we'll be implementing now. So for the h4 tag, let's give a cursor pointer so that it's clickable. So let's say cursor and then pointer. Save the file once, and yeah, so you can get that pointer. So let's initialize a on click event on our h4 tag. So let's write on click. It's gonna take a function and we're gonna say remove to do of that particular to do. Okay, so for this parameter we're just passing the true to do that we pressed on. Okay, so at the function over here we're gonna define. So let's write const remove to do. Okay, so this is going to take a param that is our to do. Okay, so let's see how we can implement this. Okay, so we are going to make use of the filter function to implement this. Okay, and we are going to filter out the to do that we pressed on from the to do's array. So let's write that over here. So set to do's of, let's first access our to do's array. To-dos dot filter. For every to-do inside our to-dos array, we are gonna say x is not equal to our to-do. This is coming from the parameter. Okay, so we are just gonna check the condition. So if the condition is true, we are going to push that element inside the array. If it is not true, we're simply not going to take that element. So we have to discuss this in the filter method. Okay, so save the file once. So essentially this is the way we are filtering out all our to-dos. So save the file, come back over here, let's console.log once. So initially we have 3 items inside our to-dos list. One is buy something, go shopping, and then go to play. So essentially let me click on the third item, go to play. That should be gone. Yes, there you go, it's working fine. So what happened is over here on the on click event we are passing that to do, that is the to do that we clicked on. So over here in the function, this is getting accessed from the parameter, and by making use of the filter function we are just removing that by making use of the check condition over here. Okay, so that is how it is working. So let's say we remove the second one. Yeah, so inside a to-dos array we have only the first one, that is buy something, and even that is gone. So let's add something again and add to do. Yeah, so essentially we start it from the beginning. Okay, then go to play. Okay, so yeah, everything is working fine. We are able to add to do's and then filter out the to do's if I press on the cancel button. Yeah, I think this is it about the to-do list. So we went on and explored about the mini project, that is how exactly a to-do list is done. That is by making the input field and then pressing on add to do. Okay, so this is essentially working. Okay, so that was a small glitch because we have just initialized the x tag. Yeah, so essentially we have understood how exactly the to-do list works. Okay, by designing the input container as well as the add to do button, we are able to add the to do, and then we are also able to filter out all the to dos from our to-do list. Okay, so we have defined 2 functions over here. One is for add to dos and then for remove to do. And yeah, essentially this is the mini project. You can implement it, and then let's see you in the next video, and then thank you for watching.